Thursday, May 9th, 2024. And this is All the Leads Mastermind podcast number 479. I just want to start by saying welcome back, Bruce. We hardly knew you were gone, but we kind of missed you. Is that how's that for a
Welcome back.
semi compliment? Welcome back.
I did watch some of Bruce's content, some really good stuff. Like again, I mean, just you guys should check that out as well.
Oh, thank you. What
Yeah,
content? I don't know what content you're talking
it
about.
was with David Parnell. Yeah,
Oh,
really,
yeah.
really good.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
absolutely.
anyway,
Thanks.
yeah, shout out.
Tim?
Jimmy? All right. Well, I want to, first, Bruce, I certainly took it as a challenge. I'm sure we could find things to be far more embarrassing than singing, but we'll try to hold it down in the interest of trying to maintain some sanity.
Thank you.
We'll just try to do valuable content today. As you probably know, we are focusing today on divorce. We have been, I'll say, toying with it for a while. A little bit of history, probably 5 years ago, we started with, as we developed our probate market, the second market that we always intended to work on was probate. And so knowing nothing about anything in regard to dealing with it, we simply went out and said, well, let's see what we can find. And we found a bunch of sources for what appeared to be probate or divorce leads. And before we certainly tried to release them and do something to sell them and augment them and invest, we looked into them a good bit, and we found that the only thing we were finding at that point were ones that had already received a decree, the divorce was already final, and at that point, the value of those leads we didn't perceive was worth something that we wanted to work on. Every year or so after that, we would circle back and see if we had a better ability to collect leads that were done on filing. And over the years, it has dramatically increased. And so now we feel like we've got a viable opportunity to go do that. And more, we're finding ways to get that information that is available. And, it's unfortunate to some extent because a lot of times, folks don't particularly want to publicize the fact that they're getting a divorce, but in fact, there are legal requirements for that to be happening. And so we are able to get them on filing now in a lot of places. There are places that we still can't get them, and we're not going to sell leads that aren't valuable to you. So any of the opportunities that we're presenting to you are ones that will be available on filing, not on decree. As we pursued this and looked at the marketplace, the premise under which we did this was the same thing that we led with on probate, which is where can we add value? Simply providing you with a lead and giving you the opportunity to call someone who's already probably in significant emotional distress and saying, hey, I heard you and Fred are, getting a divorce, ready to sell that house? Well, that's the last thing in the world we ever wanted to be able to do and wanted to encourage anyone to do. So our premise has always been to add value first. Where can I, as an agent, as an investor, and more importantly, as a human being, where can I add some value? Giving you the ability to earn that person's trust by offering them something and providing them with support at a time that many of them need it the most and are dealing with things they simply can't deal with. It's one of the most challenging things that can happen to anyone. And it's no different whether you're the husband or the wife. Circumstances are still that your life is in upheaval. And so that's kind of the approach that we took. So we were trying to make sure that we provided value around it, that we gave you some appropriate marketing material to make it work well. And once we finally felt that we could get to that point, then we took the effort to go ahead and put it into our CRM, make sure that it was available so that you could see it and work on your marketing with that within our delivery system. So we've accomplished all that. That's kind of where we are at this point. Now, the other thing that we realize is that we've been very focused for almost the past decade on nothing but probate. So our level of expertise had been pretty singularly focused around the probate arena. And we've developed probate and pre-probate and a property plus product that augmented the probate leads and everything probate. So we began to reach outside of our comfort zone and try to find some industry experts that could offer us some additional assistance and be able to therefore distill some of that to you guys. One of the people that's joining us on this call today is Liz Becker. Liz, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and unmute yourself. I actually clicked on it to do that, so I'm unmuting you. Liz is uniquely qualified to kind of help us do some of the things that we want to try to do. And Liz, I'll ask you to take just a couple of quick seconds and talk about kind of the organization that you work with and the people that you work with, and then we're going to kind of continue on with what we're doing and call on you from time to time as we go through the call for some responses. So go ahead.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tim, and glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me. My name is Liz Becker, as Tim mentioned, and I am the president and founder of the National Association of Divorce Professionals, and also the creator and senior trainer of the Certified Divorce Specialist program. So I've pretty much been in the divorce sector for almost 2 decades now, both in various areas, having gone through it, having dealt with clients in a communication skills coaching practice, and founding an association and dealing now with directly with the professionals and solely in a B2B level. So I was excited when Tim reached out in the reference that I am very passionate about making sure that anybody that chooses to specialize or focus their business to divorcing clients, that they have the right tools, skills, and resources to be able to manage a really good experience for all parties involved. So it's the combination of, yes, can you grow your business tremendously? You can. Are you going to do it the right way? You can. And that's where I come in being able to give proper answers and resources, and both for collaboration and also for the education. So I'm here to be able to answer any questions you might have, and looking forward to working with all the leads in providing you guys the best possible way to add divorce as a specific niche or sector that you want to focus in on.
Great. Well, thanks for being here. And we spent an hour or so on the phone prior to this. We had talked a couple of weeks ago, and then she had a bunch of travel coming up, so we agreed we'd try to get together before this call. And unfortunately, the quickest time we could do that was about an hour ago. So she's pretty much fresh off of that. And what we're going to be doing is working out a program where she's able to help us, make sure that our content is appropriate for the things that we're doing, make sure that the approaches that you're working with as you talk to people who are experiencing the challenges of going through a divorce is appropriate. And she has lots of great training for that, as well as offering the ability not only to do that, but to network with other professionals in similar disciplines that serve the divorce community that most people aren't aware of. And the intriguing thing about it for our standpoint was that it's a very comprehensive approach. And so, where we've been kind of looking and doing all of those things and creating programs with probate mastery and Bruce's certification programs and all of that in probate, we're going to be doing the same thing. She already has some of that material, all of that material created on the divorce side, and we'll be offering some of that to you, obviously, as a benefit of being a subscriber for us. We'll not only be able to offer it to you with some incentives, so it's a bit less expensive, but also to kind of weld some of the skill set that they bring to the game into our program. So I'm really fortunate to have her join us, and we'll nail those things down as we go. But as always, we try to get you guys moving as quickly as we can. So, trust us, we're going to be working pretty hard to get that done in the next couple of weeks to nail something up that goes forward. And we'll even put some quick, maybe a Zoom call together for a bunch of our subscribers, because we want to get experience from you as well, and find out the things that you're dealing with along the way. Also, I just want to obviously point out the same thing that we always do, which is that we're here to take your questions. So if you have questions and you want to talk about something in particular, simply raise your hand. We'll call on you. That we run until the top of the hour. We've got everybody here until 2 o'clock, and we're happy to take your questions. That's what we're here for. So please do that. We have 2 of our newest coaches here with us today. Aileen and Steve are both here. Jessica has joined us, as always, from the marketing implementation side. Jody is here. He's kind of coordinating the program, and we're all here as well. So we're here to help you. And of course, Ken is, as always, is our anchor in terms of, where the rubber meets the road and and great stories along the way, and a budding musician, soon to be a music superstar. Right? So let's kind of talk a little bit about that and talk about kind of what you're likely to be doing. Let's first off talk about the physical side of it. Obviously, we're going to provide leads. The thing that you need to know with that is that where probate has a specific and relatively deterministic number of leads, unfortunately for life in our today's society, there are a whole lot more people that are filing for divorce than are filing for probate, and the counts are extremely high. So in a lot of cases, it's going to be way more than you're going to want to bite off, and we realize that. And I've had some conversation already with the folks on the sales team talking about that. Our account reps are going, how are we going to deal with, a county, Los Angeles County, for example, where, the initial quick swat at it says, well, we can easily get 2,000 leads in the course of a month. Well, we don't, that's a big load of stuff, and be able to effectively market to that's a bit of a challenge. One of the things that Liz had mentioned this morning is, and we certainly agree, is doing a bunch of email spam and, trying to beat people up on email, send everybody a bunch of emails to get that stuff done. Not the right way to do this. We're trying to be sophisticated in what we're doing. So our sales team will be putting programs together to make it affordable for you to do it, and also to get started. We want you to get some experience in this, and our intent is to help you build a pillar of your business. It is a niche that we feel is valuable, and the more that we can help you become valuable in that niche, that's what our objective is. So I think that's kind of the critical juncture here to kind of step off and talk a little bit about what you're likely to run into. What kinds of things are you going to find when you're reaching out to talk to these people? And Bruce, I'm going to hop over to you for a second and let you kind of chime in here. What kinds of things have you run into along the way in your experience where you call somebody and all of a sudden, even in circle prospecting, you find out that there's a divorce in process? What are you likely to hear?
Well, I think you're most likely to to find out that there is no mediator. A lot of times, as a matter of fact, we just had this situation recently. One person thinks that everything's going really good, and the other party thinks it's going horribly. Okay. And I'm sure Liz has heard that before. Literally just this last week had the same thing. One party is, oh yeah, everything's going along good. We're in great shape. I'm going to refinance the house. And the other party is telling the lender, no, you're not refinancing the house. They're not getting anything. So there's always somebody, not always, but many times somebody blindsided. A lot of times somebody has to refurnish a home. Obviously they have to move. In some cases, one party is angry and they're actually damaging the property. I've seen that many times where damage has been done to the property by someone who's staying there and very, very upset. What else? I mean, there's a lot of different things. Bottom line is there's usually some confusion and some procrastination by someone involved in the process, probably not the petitioner. So confusion and procrastination by the person that maybe is not in agreement with the separation.
Do you find, Bruce, that there's any consistency in regard to the timeline from filing before something actually happens, where somebody, I mean, we've talked along about this, and let me frame my question a little differently. So, I mean, oftentimes it happens that the parties are not getting along and divorce gets filed. And at that point, relatively quickly, somebody's not going to be living in the same house. And, they're not necessarily going to run out and buy something tomorrow. They're going to find a place to go. Maybe they're going to crash on a buddy's couch or, a girlfriend's back room or whatever. It depends on the circumstances. Kids are involved, lots of different things. But at some point, there is a finite decision point where it's irretrievably broken, something's going to happen. And at that point, there may be a financial implication in regard to real estate. Have you seen any consistency time-wise for that to happen?
In my experience, it's usually a year for the person that moves out of the house, because they oftentimes sign a lease for a year. And the person that is in the house, and in the experience that I've had with it, it's been about 3 months. And that's not always 3 months to selling the property, but that's normally 3 months to the point that the person that's living there decides, hey, I'm not comfortable with this particular property by myself.
Right.
Okay, normally somewhere in the vicinity of 3 months or a year for the person that has moved out and signed a brand new lease.
And Liz, I'll also ask you, and anytime you have expertise to bring here, anytime you have comments, just feel free to chime in. But are you in the process? I know that a lot of what you do is you deal with other disciplines than just the real estate side of this. You're dealing with attorneys and all of that. What kind of perspective can you offer?
Yeah. So, do we have like 5 hours? No, just kidding.
You brought that ring we talked about.
Right. Yeah, that's what we're planning.
The training.
So, of course, divorce is extremely complex, and I've had the experience in our association and in the training that I do is for legal, financial, mental health, and real estate professionals because you all overlap. And one of the things that I enjoy training and working with the real estate community is because, first of all, realtors are usually the first responders, right? Whether by choice or by chance. So whether All The Leads is going to be giving you this by choice or by chance someone has reached out to you from somebody else because they're trying to find out how much their house is worth so that they know if it's even feasible for them to get divorced and sell or what the situation is. So it is quite complex as far as standard generalizing, like, what are initial issues or how long a property takes, or first of all, it depends on what process they're divorcing. There's 4 different ways you can get divorced, which most realtors don't know, or people generally in the real estate community, whether, like you mentioned, Bruce, whether they've started off with just dealing with a mediator and haven't litigated or even filed just yet, or they're hired an attorney and are already in the process of litigation, or they're doing a collaborative process. How many people here know about the collaborative process? Probably nobody. And that's exactly why it's so important to get divorce-specific education if you're going to handle the transaction in a divorce situation. Because if you reach out to somebody or someone comes to you and you don't know what the different processes are, what stage they're at, what they're planning, you will not be able to sell their home or help them purchase or move into a new place without knowing the legalities. So the very quick answer to your question, Tim, which involves, of course, a lot of information as a proper answer is, first and foremost, get educated, understand what they are, and then you'll see the different areas of what is more standard in time. One of the things that I actually recommend all professionals to do, interestingly enough, even if they're not realtors, is in your area, you should be privy and understand what is the general time of a sale for a home, right? What is generally in that specific area, the duration of a transaction of a sale of a house, because that will give you a basic idea, because in some markets, it may take 9 months, a year for anything to move. And in other markets, it may be quick. There may be like a waiting list for people overbidding, right? So that is going to directly affect the divorce. So these are things that are not a general standard. It is specifically unique to your area. And those are some of the things that I would have you focus in on when you're dealing with this. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And go ahead.
Finish up. Go ahead. That's fine.
No, I was going to say also that overlap that you're talking about of the other professionals and all that information, that's also super important, right? I see somebody put in here, Douglas, you mentioned something about how do you get leads, right? So there's a tremendous amount of ways. One of them, yes, you're going to be having the opportunity to see who filed in your area. But this is also a extremely B2B oriented referral system when it comes to divorcing clients. Tim started off with saying that a lot of people don't want it publicized. They keep it quiet to themselves because, they just don't want anybody involved. And if any of you have had family members or friends, you probably found out after they hired an attorney, after they were already moving, after one had moved out, right? That's when it comes out. So usually the best way to build that side and get more leads in addition to any kind of list is having a good relationship with other referring business professionals. That's why I created the NADP, because that wasn't in existence before, as far as the ancillary professions. Very important to have that community.
Absolutely. And you know, we talk a lot about networking on the probate side, the wheel of probate, and all the people that should be on your team. Well, it's the same thing on divorce. It may be a different set of people. And one of the things that Liz mentioned was, you know, mental health professionals that are involved in that. That typically is not so much involved on the probate side, because, or at least we don't run into that as much, because death is pretty finite. People know what happens. They have, you know, reasonable supports in there, ministers, faith-based organizations. Everybody wants to help somebody who's experienced the trauma of death in their family. Divorce is a whole different ballgame. You know, it's a tough spot for everybody. So having a trained professional to have people be able to cope with the significant changes in the life, particularly as it pertains to kids, vitally important. Jim, I'm gonna call on you. I mean, you've been doing this a while, you know, certainly longer than any of us have in regard to the business side of this. Any perspective you can offer in regard to divorce?
Be a good listener. Don't take one side over the other, for sure. One thing that occurred to me in quite a few of them that I did, I'd also have a mortgage broker on my team, because it's not uncommon. You can have the house, but I want my name off the mortgage. I'll take the beach house, or I want my name off that. So have a good mortgage broker that can see what it's like a family member. I want to buy the house. Have a good mortgage broker on staff to make sure what they're trying to accomplish they can actually do. And I guess my only other perspective is, if you do it right, if you don't take sides, if you're a unbiased mediator, I mean, there's up to 4 transactions here. I mean, and sometimes more. I mean, like Bruce said initially, maybe they got to sell. Maybe they have a house and 2 investment properties. They're going to sell them all. They're going to split it up. Then both of them have to buy another house. One of them might have to rent something initially. So the opportunity is probate times 2 or 3 or 4, I think, and maybe some of them only have one deal. But yeah, but I would add a mortgage broker, off the top of my head, to my list of professionals, so they can get an accurate picture of what they can do before you attempt to help them do it.
100%.
Sorry, Liz, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say 100%. And there's actually, if you are looking for lenders, I just came back from a conference for financial analysts that are divorce specific and lenders. So you want to look out for the CDLPs, which are certified divorce lending professionals. I'm actually the founder of that is a colleague of mine, and Jody Bruns. So these are people that you want to look out for. You want to be and you want to look out for, right? And you want to have those that are educated, that know how to handle a transaction. One of the things, Jim, of the mortgage, which is interesting, because I train law firms as well and lawyers, and everybody thinks that lawyers know everything. And, of course they don't. And I'm gladly to share with them that they don't, respectfully, of course. But one of the biggest problems in post-divorce situations is and it could be a high net worth family, where the husband is the income earner, and the woman, is trying to maintain a certain level of luxury of life in the house, isn't familiar, finally agrees to a settlement, knowing that she's planning on purchasing a condo, whatever it is. And everything's great. Nobody looks into with the lender. Nobody looks in with, credit or any of that. Sign the agreement. And next thing she knows, she doesn't qualify for the mortgage because she doesn't have the 6 months of alimony, or doesn't have enough liquid assets, or any of that. So these are things, and this is where the communication is important. So not only if you build a team of a lender, of some other professionals, and there's a lot, by the way, which it's interesting when we started doing this and really breaking down to understand what are the professionals in those industries that touch on the process. We have a list of, I think, of like 65, right? Like that you wouldn't even think of that were part. But when you have that community, aside from just being a lead or a referral, they're a resource for you and your client. So when Jim is talking about, this could be a 4-deal, 4 different properties, a 4-deal client, or whatever, 4 contract client, based on different, So if you have that team of people that are trusting, and you, of course, I'm sure everybody knows about that, giver mentality, and Tim started off with, like, you have to give value. If you're able to provide that to this client, that's what's going to set you apart from every other realtor out there trying to get this divorce listing, is that you have these people that are educated, that are willing to give them just, even if it's just advice. And that makes a world of difference for you, for your business, and for the client. And I mean, I hope that everybody's on the same basis, that that the hardest part of a divorce is the sale of the home, especially for the children in that household, especially. And everything that you do with your clients will have a collateral effect on the children and their many years of lives ahead. I'm sure if we check, there's 50 people, 58 people, all of you somehow are connected to divorce, or at least half of you, and know that that's going to affect it greatly. So anything that you can do that is going to provide them better resources, better experience, will result in, of course, more referrals for yourself, more contracts, but also you're making a difference in these kids' lives. That's my catalyst. I deal with professional law, and that is what keeps me going. So I would hope that you are all congruent with that as well.
I think that a lot of what you're saying is the most critical aspect of this is have empathy for the people that you're dealing with. We talked a bit about that from probate standpoint, but we also know that it's often the case that the person who is acting as a personal representative is not as deeply affected by the grief of the person that passed. They're literally taking care of the business. That's what they're there for. So that takes some of the emotion out of it, but it's for certain that anybody that you're dealing with in a divorce situation, they got it right here. It's in their heart. They're dealing with it. And you've got to have empathy for the situation that they're dealing with, and that you're that person that they can talk to, that shoulder to cry on sometimes, all of the things that go into that make it happen. You want to become a person that, literally they can trust. And it's a whole different ballgame. Not that you're not trying to do that with everybody, but it couldn't be more critical from this standpoint. They're not so worried about who's going to put the best sign up in the yard to get the house sold. They want somebody who's going to understand that, well, I might not be able to do any showings in the afternoon because that's when my kids are home and they're working on their homework. And, those kinds of things. And, that's potentially the way that you're representing yourself is anything when if you get to the point of talking about it, that you've got to make sure that they understand all of the things they're dealing with by asking great questions.
Yeah.
Ken, I know that
I mean, it just seems to me, again, you said I was practical, and I feel like I am practical. I would imagine that some of these sales, if you can get people to cooperate, both people do want to split up, hopefully try to get them thinking about the future, how their life is going to be better, moving on, moving to wherever they want to go, if that's out of state or whatever. So those would probably be the easier ones. But what about situations where, one person desperately wants to get away, War of the Roses, date myself, but, one partner is like, no, this is not happening. Like, we're not getting divorced. We're going to stay together. I mean, to me, those maybe are situations to walk away from, but, what's your thoughts on that, Liz, or anybody?
Oh, yeah. Can I answer that? Okay. So
Yeah, please.
The biggest problem that I heard in what you just said was actually those may be something that I want to walk away from, because it shouldn't be something that you fear, even in high conflict situations, if you have the right resources and the right communication skills. That's where that is where my specialty lies, and why I created the program in addition to the association, because of that fact that so many people are afraid to even touch it. Realtors, there's only two professions really that deal with both parties, and that's realtors and usually the mental health professionals, even the attorneys, right? They're separate, or if it's a mediator. Those are really the three that are possibly dealing with both, or actually the realtors are definitely dealing with both. Mediators are definitely dealing with both, and possibly the mental health professionals. So your communication skills need to be incredible, right? Your negotiation skills, your ability to be flexible in your communication, because clearly when you talk about a scenario where one wants to go, the other one doesn't, or one's high conflict, the other isn't, you know your information, but you're not going to relay the information the same way to each one, but you have to have a relationship with both to
Right.
some
I
degree.
guess specifically, does the court, mandate that the home is sold, etc., or is that something that could be held up for long periods of time?
It could
I
be
mean,
held up.
because again, I'm like a life coach to the people in probate. You know,
Yep.
what is that? What does the loss mean to them? How close were they to their family? Are they going to improve the relationship with the rest of their siblings? You know, life
Right.
is too short.
Mhm.
And I think when somebody loses somebody, that's a perfect time for them to reflect on, the meaning in their life and how they maybe want to improve their life and things they want to do moving forward. So I love trying to lift people up and get them thinking positively about where they're going to go. And divorce I see is no different, right? It's a time for a new beginning. But again, I'm just talking about if somebody's like, I'm not selling the house, like it's not
Sure.
going to happen, you
So,
know.
yeah. So
Yeah.
there are situations where yes, the judge can mandate it depending on how long it's taken. It depends on every situation is unique. Now, it seems that you have got great skills, right? If you do that life coaching aspect to it and really are able to manage it, that sometimes the realtor actually has an impact on that. So if there is the ability that you can provide a right option that is more acceptable or enticing to a person that may be stuck in not wanting to move out or not wanting to sell, sometimes you can help the process and help it come smoother. But the most important thing is what I started with. What stage are they at, right? What is that stage so that you can better guide what you need to do? You may only need to nurture that client for a short period of time, or you may need to be sort of in the background for a longer period of time until they're able to sell. But I wouldn't give up starting that relationship and possibly being the one that's going to help them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Because they're definitely, I know it's scary, and the reason why I said that is because I hear this all the time, right? There's a lot of people that are so scared to even touch a divorce case because they know that there's going to be a lot, not in every scenario,
Yeah.
but there can be a lot of drama. But there's also a great opportunity for you to make a difference to actually speed up the process, especially if you're working with all the team. If you have a relationship with the attorney, if you have the right skills you've created, because if you've already been hired, and many times you can also be court ordered, that both attorneys, if you have this relationship, will create a list for each other. We have tons of like our CDS students that because they have on a list that they're either part of a group or that they have some kind of credentials, they'll look at it and they'll say, each lawyer will look at these two lists that they're providing to decide jointly on who's going to be the realtor or the real estate agent. And they'll pick one that they feel is neutral and that has some kind of education or credentials. At that
Right.
point, when you have this relationship with the attorneys, like you said, you're like a mediator in the process.
Right. But you're basically saying that, when tempers are running hot, just back off, kind of stay in the, peripheral, and then come back in when cooler heads prevail.
Not when necessarily when the cooler heads, if the situation allows that they're not going to be selling the property. So if they have to be waiting for certain things, there's certain things in motion and they can't sell just yet, right? Depending on where they're at. Did they just file? Are there motions? Are they waiting for certain motions for certain court dates to come that they can't do anything until a court date? So you have a period of time. You can still be maintaining touch with them, still looking to where they want to go. The better picture that you can give them of where they should be or they could be going to, if they come to some kind of agreement, will help. Right?
Right.
That will help it all. So yes, the process doesn't only guide you. You as the real estate broker or agent or realtor, you can help the process as well. It all depends on how you're communicating with this client.
Right.
Hey,
And
Tim,
what I'm also hearing, if you're willing to take on their emotions, then the opportunity becomes a lot bigger. Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
I would
just
say,
like in
yeah.
probate,
Go ahead.
when somebody opens up and really starts pouring their heart out to you, a lot of people get afraid of that and they run away. And I'm like, no, that's exactly what you want, because if you're going to be the confidant, then you're also going to get that deal. So
Absolutely. If you know how to manage emotional states is key. That's one of the tools and one of the skills that's incorporated in my training, because you need that to be able to guide the process.
Hey, Roger,
Yeah.
Roger, I see, I'm sorry.
So go ahead.
Okay. Hey, Raj, I see you got your hand up there. Let's hear from Mr. Arkansas for a second. Go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Thanks. I've done 4 divorces in the last 7 years. Every one of them was completely different. The most complicated one was 6 properties. One was a house and a business. It became a 3-ring binder with tabs at mediation because the husband and wife could not get to an agreement on how to split what the value was. The only thing that really allowed me and the attorneys accepted was that I do broker's price opinions as opposed to CMAs on the real estate, on the business, and on the couple of duplexes in there and houses and the like. The business, I went to a business broker and got his opinion on that, and he came in and talked about that. We presented to each side on the mediation the thing, but even before that, it was a presentation to both lawyers that took place. As she has already said, and I'm sorry, ma'am, I dropped
Liz.
in late. I didn't get your name, but it was basically over communicate with both attorneys and the family so that both attorneys know what to expect at the valuation side. And that was a significant concern during the divorce. During the other single family stuff, it was a little bit easier. Both attorneys said it's a house, go ahead and get that done. It was again a broker's price opinion as opposed to a CMA, which has a lot more information with it on a CMA than on a BPO than you do on a CMA. So that gave it another level of credibility that I know what I'm doing on it. Everything you said is basically correct. In my experience, the most important part is communicate, and don't take a side. At one point, I was evaluating the house, and there was some floor problems, and I downgraded the house because of the floor problems. And the wife got really excited about it, and she challenged me at the mediation, and I said, "You're welcome to get another opinion and drag this out a little bit longer if you'd like. But this is, how do you feel about all of the other properties that I've done?" And she said, "Well, all the other properties are right." And so the attorneys just looked at each other, and the mediator said, "We're going to take your opinion, Roger, on it." And so the basis that I approach these with is not so much with the emotional content of what's going on between the two. Don't take sides, of course, but be as provide both of them with the equal amount of information, because at the real estate side, they're interested in money. How much of what am I going to be getting, and what's he getting, and what am I getting, and what is she getting? That's the division and equal distribution between the two was what the objective was. So that's all I got to say. Take any more time on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Raj. I appreciate it. Jim?
Yeah, Liz, your very first comment, I'm going to amend. I started off by saying you don't want to take sides. You want to remain a neutral party. You actually made me realize I think you want to take everybody's side, including that of the kids. That's something that I had never considered before, because going in, you don't know if they're going to have to sell that family home. But if they do, and the school districts, and you've got a list of properties that, hey, I can get you this townhouse or this villa or this condo, and the kids don't have to change schools. Nobody else would have done that. You did your homework, you came prepared, and you're offering a tremendous extra value to win them over. So thank you for that. You changed my perspective.
Thank you. And I'm gonna change your perspective on another thing right now too, that I share this with any group of in real estate professionals, because I think this is critical. And this is one of the things that I've seen happen over the years, that I find it to be a huge mistake that affects the children that could be easily rectified. And I'll share it like in a story, because when we started the NAP, we had local chapters, we still do. And at each chapter at the meeting, so you have all the different professionals, and there's what we call an NAP Ed Talk, which now we have nationally. And at each Ed Talk, so you'll have a different professional talking about the issues. And this happened to be a real estate agent that was talking about what Bruce, you started off with, that some of the issues that the house needs to be staged, right? You may have a situation where one of the spouses already moved out. You walk in, you know it's a divorce because all of the clothes are on one side of the closet. You know, all of the pictures are on one side of the nightstand. You can see it's one parent living there. And what normally an agent will do is come in and start staging and start filling up the closets. You know, you don't want to make it obvious clearly that this is a divorce sale per se. And while this realtor was explaining the story and presenting, the child psychologist in the chapter raised her hand and said, listen, I think that's great. I know that you have to do this to be able to sell the property, but if there are children in that household, especially younger ones, this is a really traumatic time for them. And you moving something or filling a closet or moving toys in a certain area could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. So I urge you to make sure that you're not going in and changing things without having the children involved. And I share the story with you because I share it with everybody, that you want to make sure that the parent and the children are on board with making any changes. Over the years, I've gone around and shared it and gotten different feedback. And one of our members that was in New York, who was in Connecticut, actually, that was licensed in New York, called me about 2 months after I had shared that story. And she said, Liz, I just want to thank you because I just had a listing. Well, it was an interview for a listing. It was a high-end condo in New York. I walked in. It was a young mother in her mid-30s with 2 young children. And it was exactly like you had described with, you know, just everything on one side of the closet. And I knew it was divorce. So I started talking to her, and at the end, it got to the point where I told her, we're going to have to stage the house if I get the listing, but I will only do it if we can do it in a way that everybody's on board, that the kids are okay. And she told me that that mother sat down and started to cry at the table. And she said she'd interviewed 20 realtors. They wanted that listing, and nobody asked her about the kids, set aside the fact of what do you plan to move into and how many rooms are you going to need in the next house that you move into. And so I share this story because it encompasses so much of everything that we've been talking about, right? It encompasses the fact that she did get the listing out of the other 20. The children are taken care of. It's going to be a better experience for them. And it's, to me, that's a win-win. So there's another little tip, Jim, that you can add to the children factor.
That's
Perfect.
great.
Thank you.
That's great. And Aileen and Steve, both you guys, if there are things you want to talk about, simply just raise your hand and comment. We'd love to hear from you guys as well. I want to kind of move to one other question that frequently comes up in regard to this, which is what's actually going to be the most important thing that you can do to provide quick value. And we've talked about a lot of things that are important. I think the empathy side of it is extremely important. The thing that I was going to, and this kind of talks to Liz, what we were talking about earlier, is that how you differentiate yourself is that you are going to provide all of it. You basically are coming in and you're not saying, I know everything. There's nothing that you can tell me that I've never heard of before or anything else. What you're basically saying is, I've got resources. I'm going to provide you with the resources that you're not going to have to go find them yourself. You know, no matter what you're dealing with, I may not know all the answers, but I have people. I have the folks and the team and all of that. I focus on this market. I do the things that I need to do that provide value in that arena, and it's what I do for a living. I've made it a part of my business. I'm committed to it. I'm not just out here trying to, you know, hustle poor people that are already having trouble out of their property. I really want to build a long-term relationship with you, and it's important to me to do that. Aileen, what were you going to say? Go ahead.
I just wanted to add, because, you know, we've started for so many years in probate, a lot of the things that I'm hearing, even though it's completely, it's different dealing with somebody in probate as opposed to dealing with somebody in divorce, the nuances and the resources and the team, that's all unanimous. I mean, granted, you're going to need some people that are different, but being able to have that service-oriented service team approach can carry over back and forth very easily. Well, I don't know about easily, but
yeah, absolutely.
You have that mindset. So
Even the
sure.
estate planning attorneys, right? They're a huge part of this, and they cross over with both. With divorce, they're needed all the time. They're part of our association and part of CDS. They've gone through CDS as well, because there's going to be new wills, there's going to be new things that have to be written up that are really important in the process as well. So, and I'm assuming that many of you already have good relationships with estate planning attorneys, right?
Yes, for sure. For sure. And just other resources. I mean, even sometimes we have estate sales. Sometimes people are saying, I don't want any of this stuff, right? In the house, I want none of it. You just clean me out and just start fresh. Could be something in that situation. Or but having good solid resources and being able to just walk them along the journey or the path that they're at and meeting them where they're at is really key.
Absolutely.
Well,
Can I add something? Can I add something, Tim, for a minute? Because I did want to bring up that I liked what Roger had mentioned, because I think that that's key. We talk about empathy, and yes, empathy is very important, but also empathy looks in like it looks in different, very different ways. There's not one specific way to empathize, and sometimes it's really about reading the room. It's about reading the people and the players and what it is that they need at that moment for you to be empathetic. So many people think that empathy looks and sounds a certain way and is kind or is responding. As Ken mentioned at the beginning, you have someone like just dumping on you emotionally and you just sitting there and waiting and listening and calmly. And that's nice too, but that may not be specifically, depending on what information you're collecting in that moment, what that client needs, right? It may need be like, yeah, I get this is really rough, but let's sit down and let me tell you where, what we need to focus on right now at this minute. That could be empathy as well, right? It's how confident you are in your knowledge and being able to really assess what is needed at that specific moment, where you are in the process and in that conversation. So I like what Roger had said about that.
That's great. I want to just go back and catch a question that came in chat. Daniel posed an interesting question, and I may have an interesting or a different take on it maybe than you asked. You asked about, is a quicker sale usually better? Like with a cash buyer or investor, listing might be a longer sale, probably more painful especially for the children. In other words, sort of the rip the Band-Aid off approach. And I think it's really interesting that you ask that, because there are circumstances where that motivation in terms of moving to a sale, moving to a change in that living condition, there may be different factors at play there. You may be in a situation where, the mother or father, whoever's responsible mostly for the kids, feels that the quicker I can get this resolved and move on to a new life is better for everybody. The other side of that from a motivational standpoint can be that, well, I'd like to do that sooner rather than later, but what's most important is that we got to be concerned with our financial future. So, there's not a quick answer here, and I don't know the right answer. All of those things are important. And Liz, it goes back to what you said before. One of the key things to know is how long is it going to take to sell a house in this marketplace? That's where you become the expert, where you can offer that value in terms of being able to put that stuff out there. I think that's a critical piece of it. And so, to Daniel, to answer your question, there isn't one specific answer. I think what you've heard on this call already is the better the listener that you are, the better the answer is going to be in terms of being able to provide that right answer for people. Roger, I'm going to call real quick. We got two other things I want to get to, but what were you going to say, bud?
I was going to say, Tim, just a blend in between of what you just said. It may be a situation where, yeah, we need to get the finances settled right away, but my son's graduating in June. Is there any way you could find somebody that would buy the house and let us stay here until after the graduation? That might be an opportunity for an investor to come in, buy the house, and rent back to them. So,
sure.
Yeah, so many different ways you can go with it.
Raj?
My observation on the divorces, I just recalled that based upon what I've heard here is you're not selling just the buyer or the two people that are getting divorced. You are also selling yourself to the two attorneys. You have 4 closes that you're going to have to get in order to do that. The attorney says, yeah, he sounds good. Well, I've got somebody else and I'm going to be using that I'd like for you to take a look at. So you've got really 4 closes in order to get the deal for the property evaluation and doing it that way. So it's just not just one person that's going to make the decision. Everybody's got to agree that's involved in the divorce.
Good point, bud. That's an excellent point, actually. That's a very, very good point.
Mhm.
Someone has also asked if we're going to be providing the same materials that we do for probate. And of course, that was the whole kind of the waiting period that we were in. Are we going to provide credibility websites, and are we going to provide mailing materials and all that? Absolutely. That's really where when we soft launched, we basically just said, hey, we've got leads. We want to put them out there. Let some of you take a shot at doing it. And a few people signed up and said, yeah, I'd like to start working probate leads. Well, interesting things happened. Several of those people that did stuck around and have already built that as part of their practice. They're already actively doing that. So it gave us the going forward, yep, this is a great idea. Let's go develop what we needed to do. So the answer is yes, indeed. We're going to be providing website marketing materials, letters, all of that. And it's available in the system now to be able to do just that. We're kind of coming up toward the top of the hour. I want to kind of summarize just a little bit and say a couple of things here. First of all, this is a developing process. We're not going to sit here and tell you today that we have all of the answers. I can tell you that I think Liz brings a great dimension to this. We are going to be working closely with her as we grow this. She's probably going to hate me before we get done because we're going to use her a whole lot in terms of getting stuff done. But I've managed to stay reasonably civil with Bruce, and we do a lot of the same things with Bruce along the way. And this is a great organization of people. You know, I always say I love working with y'all because it's a great opportunity to feed off of people who legitimately care about other people. So we're not going to sit here as a company and say, well, you know, you're now where the best resources in the world. We already have it all put together and all that. We're going to learn. We're going to learn what we need to do. Liz's function had been, she made it really clear that her job is not the marketing side. Her job is the relationship building side. And some of it is marketing because it's mostly on the B2B side, how to build those relationships. We're real good at working with you on the direct marketing side. How do you get to the people that are there? We're giving you the contact information. We're giving you letters that you can put out. We're actually going to be offering a book that you can put together to offer as a handout for people to get some stuff done and build your credibility and all of that. So what I'm going to say to you is this: we're ready to do this now. Your account representatives are anxious to talk with you about it. We're going to begin pushing this very hard. We want to get some people in it quickly, and we want to build a community so that we can learn more as we go and provide the best possible tools that we can. Through Liz's organization and the things that she's bringing to the game, we're looking to have you learn and become more educated and do the things that you need to do to be able to offer that value confidently to the people that you're dealing with. And the thing I think that you should hear the most in this is like exactly what we started with. It's the add value. If you add value, you're never going to have to go and say, well, going to sell that house now? You're going to be the logical inheritor of that information. If you've provided the value that we've talked about, you're not going to have, it's not a sales call anymore. Your friend is going to be, you're going to be the person that they trust. And if you can think about that relationship and put yourself in the position of that person and say, man, how would I be feeling if I was Joe or I was Sally and I was dealing with a circumstance? What would I want to hear from? What do I need? What don't I know? And it's a very different talking to their friends or their girlfriends or their male friends, you know, the guys they play golf with or whatever. Everybody's got sides in that. They know people. You're not that person. You're that calm voice of reason that's out there who's bringing experience and expertise to the game. So we're here to help you build all of that. And that's really our effort here. And I know that kind of sounded like, you know, I'm standing on a, giving a stump speech, but I don't mean it that way. I'm proud of I'm proud of the fact that it took us this long to get there, because I feel confident we're going to be able to add the value that we want to add to all of you. And we're going to, through you, change lives. And that's really what we're all about doing here. We want to have a positive impact on the people we're dealing with here, just like we do the same thing on the lives that we've changed thousands of lives over the year in regard to probate. So we're excited about that. We're looking forward to working with you and try to get all this stuff together and make things work well with each other and with you guys. So Liz, I appreciate you being here today. I think
Pleasure.
great. And you'll be probably seeing more of her as we go. And certainly the expertise that our other coaches and our real estate professionals bring to the game is invaluable, because we've all been talking to people over the years about, you know, real estate and run into people along the way, but not specifically just focusing on building this pillar and this niche. We feel like it can be every bit as lucrative, maybe even in some cases more lucrative than probate. And we're going to provide you with the tools and the expertise to do it. I urge you to step up and, present yourself to your account representatives. We're going to be reaching out to you. You can look for some marketing materials, but this is the month for divorce. We're going to help you get involved in it. We're going to help you grow, and we want you to add that to your practice. So we really, really promise we're looking forward to going forward. So that's kind of where we're at. If anybody has any last minute things they'd like to offer, please pop your hand up. Otherwise, we're going to bring this hour to a halt, and we appreciate you. I see that there's a hand up there, and I'm going to say unmute and have at it.
Yes, I just really quickly wanted to mention, if you are a current subscriber, just reach out to our support line, our main phone number. You can always call or just email support@alltheleads.com. If you are not a current subscriber, I did post the link in the chat. If you want to check out info and pricing for your county, you can just follow that link there, and our reps will be reaching out.
Yep, and I'll add one other thing. We're going to do this in a way that you can fit it into your structure and into your budget, because as I said, there are a lot more divorce leads than there are probate leads all over the country. And so, we're not here just to try to pick your pocket and take more of your money. The idea is that we're trying to build something that lets you build a pillar of your business. So we're here to help you, and we want to make it work for you, not just be a vendor for leads, because if that's all it is, we don't think we're adding the value that we need to be adding. So there's going to be a lot more coming up down the road. Jimmy, I'd say it's time to take us to the barn, buddy.
I don't have a barn, but I'll take you into the end of the call. I want to thank all of you for being here today. This is an exciting new chapter for the company and for all of you. Particularly thank Liz. Great information, Liz. Great way to kick it off. And everybody who actively participated, Aline and Steve and Roger and Ken and Bruce and Daniel. And as always, I challenge each of you, just take one idea, maybe just calling your account rep and getting started with this, but take one idea that inspired you on this call, go out and put it into practice, and please come back next Thursday and share your results with the group. Have a great week, everybody. Same time next Thursday. Take care.
Bye now.